Hi everyone, it's Kat. Thank you so much for joining me today. I've had to take a little break over the last few weeks as a slew of viruses have made its way through my household. Pretty typical for back to school season, and also I think something a lot of us are experiencing right now post COVID. Um, but I'm very happy to be taking advantage of this beautiful fall day in New England to show you a modification that I learned in a recent studio class that I attended. So the class that I attended was called Iyengar style yoga, which is all about a focus on alignment. So unlike a power or a flow class, you're really getting into one pose at a time and staying there as you make some adjustments and really tune into your body. And I really love this style because number one, it's great for really learning the proper alignment to avoid injury in different poses, but it also offers a lot of modifications for people that may have any kind of mobility issues. And like for me, for example, because I've been sick off and on for a couple weeks, my kids, my husband been sick off and on, I haven't been able to practice and stretch as regularly as I would like. And so I'm finding myself really tight right now. So while I may not in general have certain mobility issues that other people may struggle with on a regular basis, I find that if I've had to step away from my practice for a couple weeks, everything, especially now that I'm in my 40s, things start to tighten up a little bit. And so you sometimes need to ease your way back in after illness or injury. So I thought I would take this opportunity to show you one thing that I'm using right now, or can be used, by anybody, like I said, who's coming off illness, injury, or has long-standing mobility issues for any reason. And so this is going to be a modification of one of my favorite balance poses, which is tree pose. So I'm going to step back and show you what I'm talking about. So if you're familiar with tree pose, normally you would have your mat and you would not be wearing shoes. And the idea would be that you would be spreading the toes of your standing leg nice and wide. So for right now, I'm going to use my left leg. So I'm lifting my toes, spreading them, and planting them down into the ground or the mat. Now, if I was going to do tree pose unassisted, I would put some of my weight or put all of my weight into my standing leg, gently start to lift my right knee up, and either keep my toes, lightly balanced on the ground, or I would begin to lift my leg up, rotate through my hip, and then either kickstand my toes on the ground or place the sole of my foot on either my calf or my inner thigh. Now, this can be challenging because we tend to be very tight in our hips, especially because in our current culture, we spend a lot of time sitting. And so even doing this for people that don't have mobility issues can be challenging unless you've been doing some regular stretching, especially hip opening poses. And so a good modification, if you're starting to learn tree pose, or are really experiencing a lot of tightness or have some kind of hip or knee or back issues that may make doing something like this really challenging, if not impossible, an option would be to use a chair. And like I said, I just learned this, and I think this is a great modification for this pose. So what you would do is you could, if you need to, hold on to the chair for a little bit of balance, and then you start to get into the pose similarly to if you were doing it unassisted. But what you do again is you lift the toes of your standing leg, in this case my left leg, spread those toes nice and wide, and then plant them down onto the ground so that you really have some strength and steadiness in that standing leg. Then you want to think about shifting your weight into that standing leg and then slowly coming up onto the toes of your uh, opposite leg. Now, like I said, if you need to, you can hold on to the chair for balance, and then you start to lift your leg up. And then instead of twisting and then planting it somewhere along your leg, what you would do is you still want to get that rotation in to open up the hip, but then you would plant your foot on the seat of the chair, and there you go. So even right now, like I said, because I'm feeling tight here after not practicing for a couple weeks regularly, I can feel a little bit of a stretch here just standing right like this. And so this is helpful because even though you may not notice it, you're still going to be engaging throughout the standing leg, and it will help you with your balance. And you can even kind of lean into that left leg if you really want to emphasize the work on the balance pose and the strengthening of that standing leg. But meanwhile, it's helpful because you're not having to worry about wobbling around. And then this kind of angle is a little bit gentler on parts of your leg, your foot, um, and will not give as much stretch in the inner thigh and in the hip area as it would if the leg was planted somewhere along your standing leg. And then you can still engage in the rest of the pose, thinking about lifting through the crown of your head, bringing your hands in front of your heart space if you'd like, or reaching your hands up towards the sky. And if you wanted to, you could even play around with it a little bit and thinking about coming up on the toes of this foot. And if you are kind of working your way to tree pose and starting with this modification, you could eventually think about kind of, coming up a little bit onto the toe. Might be a little hard to lift, but you could try even lifting, just kind of playing around with it as you start to build your strength in your standing leg. And then when you're done, you just bring your hands back to heart center if you have them raised. Grab back onto your chair if you need it for a little bit of balance. And then bring your leg back to center and drop it to the floor. So I'll show you one more time on the other side, and then hopefully you can try this on your own. So again, you're thinking about lifting the toes of your standing leg. So this time it's my right, spreading them nice and wide and thinking about suctioning them down so that you're really grounded into the earth beneath you. And then, like I said, you can reach out and hold on to your chair if you need it for balance. You may need to scooch a little closer to it. Then you lift your standing leg, rotate through that hip, and then just place your foot down on the seat of this chair. Like I said, you'll probably just feel a little bit of a stretch through here. You may feel a little bit at the back of the thigh or the outer thigh area. And then you want to lengthen up through the crown of your head, almost like there's an invisible string pulling you up towards the sky. Bring your hands to heart center, and then stay here or lift your hands up towards the sky, reaching, creating more length in the spine as you lift up. You can even look up to the sky if you like. Take a few breaths here. And then exhale your hands back to heart center. Grabbing onto your chair, this time with your left arm. And then just rotating back through that hip as you bring your standing leg back down to the ground. Now, I hope that was helpful and gives you some ideas for ways that you can start working on tree if this is a new pose to you. It's always good to start with some modifications of a pose when you're learning it because it helps you to build strength, but it also supports you as you're getting more comfortable with the pose and, like I said, increasing strength, figuring out, how to balance your weight so that you can get into the full expression of pose more comfortably. Or it can be great if even if you never get to that full expression, but would like to experience some of the benefits of the pose, knowing these modifications can be really helpful because it gives you a way to still participate either at home or in class with some poses that might otherwise not be accessible to you. So if you have any questions about this modification, this pose, or anything else, feel free to post it below and I will happily respond. And I hope you'll come back and join me soon when I post my next video. Take care and have a great day.